everyone has talked about Mushoku Tensei. From Giga to Scamboli reviews, videos ever since its first airing back in winter 2021 have been popping up. And frankly, for very good reason. Mushoku Tensei takes what many isekais have done before and polishes it to near perfection. As of now, Mushoku Tensei just finished up its second core, leaving it currently sitting as one of the highest rated series on all of my anime list, and the highest rated isekai on the entire website. In my opinion, it honestly occupies a very much deserved spot, although I personally do prefer its first core to its second one. But I mean, like, come on, just look at this beautiful animation! Let's fucking go! However, despite its success with many people, Mushoku Tensei still constantly draws in tons of criticism. For example, my good friend Kasim from Weapod vehemently believes it to be overrated and lacking in both story and character development. So, you know, as the totally non-argumentative and headstrong person I am, I decided to literally make an entire video to flesh out my thoughts and basically explain why I'm right and he's wrong. So, to start off, I'm not going to be wasting time discussing what an isekai is, because if you don't already know, how? Genuinely. Instead, we're just going to be jumping straight to the plot. The story starts the same way so many isekais have, with death. It shows an unnamed NEET being hit by a truck and doctors in a hospital failing to save him. But rather than this being the end, it instead serves as a beginning as Rudius Greyrat is welcomed into the world that is Mushoku Tensei. From then on, we're looking at pretty normal isekai stuff, honestly. Rudius ends up being pretty talented with magic, they hire a tutor to teach him more as he grows at a super quick rate, blah blah blah, typical isekai shenanigans, frankly. It's once they get to the final test that his tutor assigns to him that we get to see the excellence of this story finally shine through. For a while, we almost forget that's an isekai and it could really be any typical fantasy, just showing the daily life of a young Rudius. But once that final test comes around the corner, we're shown how a past can at times drag you down. Now, as I mentioned earlier, before being reincarnated, Rudius was a NEET. Someone who didn't work, someone who didn't leave home, honestly your average anime fan, frankly. This doesn't change just because it gets brought into a new world. Those experiences and traumas from Rudius' past life that caused him to end up being that way are still here to shine through, and it causes Rudius to have to learn and change. And we see whenever his final exam comes around and he has to see that he now needs to leave the house, he becomes absolutely terrified. Rudius before this point has shown that he was scared to leave home. He would see other kids his age out playing in the field, but those memories of his past life would constantly haunt him, preventing him from ever actually leaving his home. However, despite all of that, when that day comes when Roxy, his tutor, begins to take him out of the house to go do their final, Rudius ends up actually leaving. All of that trauma of his past life was there, and he was still scared the whole time, but nonetheless he was able to change and improve. And that is the big thing about Mushoku Tensei, improving. I feel so many isekais today are just power fantasy, where the major flaw of the characters how bland or boring they are. Like, most of them lack any real depth. I mean, holy shit, did you guys actually watch Isekai Cheat Magician? What the fuck was going on there? But I mean, like, when you look to actually good shows, like Sora from No Game No Life, you know, how does he actually change and improve when he goes to the new world? Or Naofumi from Rising of a Shield Hero. Does he actually improve himself in a different and new, unique way compared to the world he came from originally? No Game No Life and Shield Hero are not bad shows, but they just don't take advantage of the very best thing isekais have to offer. You see, in Shield Hero, it will work fine if Naofumi wasn't brought to another world if he was just originally a resident that was declared to be the hero. In No Game No Life, Sora would have been fine just being a super intelligent, smart person who's extra talented at the games. There's nothing brought special about him being from a different world. But then when you look to a show like Mushoku Tensei, the isekai aspect of it is so interwoven into that story that if you were to take that aspect away, Mushoku Tensei would become an entirely different story, and I mean that quite literally. Light novel readers would know what I'm talking about when I say literally, but I don't really want to spoil the show too much for the future, so I'll kind of not say anything more there. Mushoku Tensei excels at bringing the isekai aspects as a front and center plot point, actually making it essential. Rudius' major conflicts for the most part center around his past life, not his current one always. It's about improving and growing, how a bad person doesn't always have to stay a bad person, something so many fans of Oriaimo don't quite understand. So many isekais are how a bland person can take advantage of power to not change, but still live in excellency, while Mushoku Tensei we get to see the character actually struggle and work to improve. Another great example of this comes from the recent second core Mushoku Tensei. Rudius finally manages to meet up with his father again after being thrown into Demon Continent, but is not welcomed back the way expected. Kinda like when a college kid comes home and expects their family to be super excited to see them again, and instead the parents just can't wait until that kid fucking leaves again. But, you know, it's more like his father is kind of glad to see him once again, but more than anything, he's honestly angry that Rudius didn't try and find his sister or his mother and instead just had a good time on the Demon Continent with some chick that he was tutoring. Ultimately, they end up getting in a major fight and things become extremely tense between them. The story then shows a somewhat similar situation in his past life, where a friend of Rudius's past tries to reach out to that past Rudius and ask him to come back to school after he was bullied, but over that, just asking a simple question like that relationship with his friend becomes strained. That past Rudius decides to never work to repair that relationship, and it worsens past Rudius' path to becoming a complete shut-in. But now, Rudius is given a near-perfect chance to change, and despite his initial plans to just give up, with a little push, Rudius repairs that relationship with his father, something so many young girls nowadays that have OnlyFans could never even imagine, and they end up being thrilled to see each other once again and have that strong relationship between them back again. Now, when I was discussing this with my friend Kasim, he made a point that since people had to give him pushes in these scenarios, Rudius isn't actually improving on his own. And now, while I respect Kasim as he is a friend of mine, I don't think I could formulate such a shit take if I tried. I think it's important to note that even in his past life, people are constantly giving him chances to improve. That friend we spoke of earlier was kind of extending a branch and saying, hey, you know, I missed you, come back to school. Rudius' parents were even asking him when he planned to go back to living a normal life, although the parents weren't nearly as pushy at it, but he constantly was denying those chances to reintegrate. Either way, the new Rudius actually takes those chances in his life to improve, even if it takes that push, and that alone shows that Rudius is changing and growing. Now, I feel I can't end the video without discussing a certain aspect of Mushoku Tensei. Mushoku Tensei undoubtedly has questionable content when it deals with sexual relations between a child and a man who in this world may be a young child as well, but was a 34-year-old man in his past life. The major downside of the show comes from the perverted and pedophilic aspects, but at the end of the day, I believe it shouldn't stop you from enjoying the show. Rudius is a flawed person, though there is no justification to his perverted habits. I won't even attempt to defend these aspects of the show, I just simply ask that you give it a chance despite them. Anyways, to wrap everything up, Mushoku Tensei is an isekai for people looking to see what isekais actually can offer. It allows itself to actually depend on that reincarnation aspect and allow characters to be flawed. Crazy, a flawed isekai character literally supposed to be impossible, when so many isekais nowadays are just delusional power trips for depressed teenagers and overworked Japanese employees. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you around. Peace.